NFL Hall of Famer Brett Farve is known for many things, leading the Green Bay Packers to victory, showing up in There's Something About Mary, ridiculous career stats, sexual harassment, possible painkiller addiction, and also the $140 million he earned during his two-decade career. Alas, the mighty, the praised have finally fallen. These days, Farve is embroiled in a scandal in Mississippi, where millions of dollars in federal welfare money went to projects that benefited the not-so-needy, including a new volleyball facility at Farve's alma mater, where just so happens his daughter attended and played the sport. The scandal in the nation's poorest state is heating up. On Thursday, John Davis, a key figure in the welfare spending scandal, pleaded guilty to federal fraud charges. Elsewhere in the world of sports, the Boston Celtics shared more on its suspension of coach Ime Udoka, saying the penalty came after a months-long investigation that found multiple violations of team policies. The team's interim coach is now assistant Joe Mazzulla, who comes with some legal issues of his own. He was arrested on suspicion of domestic battery in 2009, which was later settled out of court. Joining me now is Terrence Moore, sports journalist and columnist at Forbes, to discuss all these things. Terrence, goodness gracious, when they say that sports are soap operas, this is the week. I want to start with Brett Farve. One of the things that strikes me about this case is not just the corruption, but the introspection that it has caused in some of the sports media. Many people, there have been tweets and commentary about the fact that, Brett Favre should be being covered with the same relentlessness that Jameis Winston got when he stole $32 worth of crab legs, that Brett Favre should be treated with much more hostility than Michael Vick or Colin Kaepernick were. How do you think the sports media has handled covering this Brett Favre story, given the depth and breadth of the crime that he is allegedly involved in?
Well, Jason, I'm going to start with this. Depending on how all this turns out, it's going to make me decide whether or not I'm going to burn my Brett Favre T-shirt here. I'm leaning toward doing it. And I bring that up because being a member of the media, I can speak for all of us, Brett Favre was a delight to talk to. He really was. And that's part of the problem here. He was such a likable person. Yeah, not so much on the field when he was throwing the interceptions and the other things, but for 20 years, I mean, he was a great player. And he was to say, that should have nothing to do with this. And it should have nothing to do with the fact that he was a very cooperative player with us. So, yes, there is a double standard here. There's no question about it. There is no way in the world when Brett Favre says he knew nothing about this, when you're getting $1 million to speak and you don't speak, okay, when your alma mater is getting $5 million for a volleyball facility, and by the way, Jason, that must be one heck of a volleyball facility. Nothing against volleyball, but $5 million. And when your daughter plays a part of that there, and you talk about the poorest state in the country, this is not a good look, to say the least.
Yeah, I was struck by that because, again, being likable is something that can change how a lot of the press covers you, but it doesn't necessarily change the crimes or the seriousness of the things that you committed. With that in mind, I want to turn to Ime Udoka now. Now, look, there's all sorts of memes, there's all sorts of commentary, there's strange tweets going out about his personal life, but I'm struck by two things about this story, and I'm curious what your thoughts are. First, you have it first leaked by the Celtics organization that they're going to suspend him for a year. Then there's a press conference where they say, look, he violated lots of team policies. He gets a one-year suspension. Terrence, what confuses me about this is we still don't know the specifics of what he supposedly did. But more importantly, there's not been a peep out of the NBA coaches union. And usually the union steps in at this point and says, hey, we're going to investigate this or we're going to appeal the one-year suspension. Why do you think there has been no word from the NBA coaches union about a one-year suspension of a coach who in his rookie season took a team to the NBA finals?
Well, in the words of my late grandmother, this is a hot mess, okay? No one has ever seen anything like this in the history of the NBA. A coach being in this situation. So a lot of this, Jason, is that this is just a totally unprecedented situation. And let's face it, the person to blame the most is Udoka. He's the one that got himself in this situation. Let's deal with what we know. We know that the Boston Celtics have some rule out there. You cannot be involved in any kind of affairs with somebody who is part of the organization. He violated that rule. Now, what went on beyond that, who knows? But it's obvious from what you just said right there that this is pretty bad. I mean, when you've got not only his peers not defending him, not saying a word about it, there's something else that's more that's involved here. And what's so sad about this, just from a basketball standpoint, human standpoint, is discussing if he did what he's alleged to do. But from a basketball standpoint, here's this guy, first year as a head coach, did a splendid job. I mean, they were under 500 in January and streaked all the way to the NBA Finals. But all that just gets washed away because there's this more serious matter of what did he do here? We don't know, but it does not look good, whatever it is.
And the other thing is, I think the way, in some ways, that the Celtics handled this led to a lot of unfair and sexist and problematic speculation about other people on staff because they failed to be clear about what happened. Terrence Moore, thank you so much for joining us this evening.